Bitcoin continues to chop around as war escalations continue. In today's very quick video update, we'll be going over the most recent Bitcoin price action and taking you through what I think could be happening next in the market. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So kicking us off with the Bitcoin price action, you can see here that we are still hovering right between that 70 to 72K level. So what is next for Bitcoin? Look, if we take a look at this price action, you can see that on the daily time frame, which the candle hasn't closed yet, we are getting rejected at the value area high. Now on the 4-hour time frame, you'll notice that we did get a close above, and then we managed to get another close immediately below with another wick to the upside, and currently this 4-hour candle, which will determine the daily candle, is red. So let's see how the price action develops, but at this point in time, there are two cases to be made. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that my base case is Bitcoin will likely be headed lower this year. However, in the more immediate short term, we have to pay attention to some very, very critical levels. A lot of retail traders are currently suggesting that Bitcoin is making higher lows, and this is actually a fact. If we take a look here, we created one low here, another low here, another low here, another low here, and this technically below the point of control is a higher low. So until Bitcoin actually confirms below this level, I would not be willing to say that the top is fully in for this move to the upside. Now you might be asking, what exactly do you mean the top wouldn't be in? Well, because my base case is that Bitcoin is likely to move lower, I actually added to my existing Bitcoin short position right around these tariff capitulation lows. And you can see here that I'm currently still up over $100,000 on this trade, having secured over $300,000 in realized profits. Now, I initially entered this trade around $97,000. If you've been watching the channel, you know this already, but I just wanted to make sure that all of the newcomers to the channel know my overarching strategy, and that is to short Bitcoin when we hit those pivot highs in the bear market. And yes, this is a bear market. So taking a look at the Bitcoin price action, let's go on the lower time frames. You'll notice here that when we had the news of Trump essentially saying that there are peace talks with Iran, we created this move from the point of control all the way up to the value area high, creating this wick. Now, so far, we have not been able to get any kind of higher time frame candle closes above this wick. And until we can break above this level and hold it as support along with the previous local high at around $72,200, I am not willing to say that Bitcoin will be moving higher from here. That is why I remain in my existing shorts. Now, in my previous video, I talked about the fact that I would be accumulating Bitcoin lower once we head sub $60,000 because I do still firmly believe this will be the case. But until then, we will simply have to be patient with the Bitcoin price action. Please remember that nothing that I discuss on the channel should be construed as financial advice. I'm just a guy on the internet sharing all of his own personal trades and his overall market analysis. Speaking of my personal trades, if you want to know how I am personally trading the market, well, you do have the first link in the description down below. It is a completely free community where you trade with your own capital. And once you sign up with one of the affiliate exchange links down below, you start trading on there, you'll get access to the group where I share all of my own personal trades. So at this point in time, something I wanted to bring to your attention is the Coinbase Premium Index. The reason why this is significant is because it shows ultimately the US buying pressure. Now you can see that we are still in deep red despite this most recent pump. So we are seeing some spot sellers getting rid of their Bitcoin as Bitcoin is moving higher. Normally, you want to see buying for a sustained move to the upside. Speaking of which, if we take a look at the Bitcoin spot ETFs, which we haven't done in a while on the channel, you'll notice that over the past few days, we have had some outflows. And if this trend continues, I would expect Bitcoin to likely reject from around this region. Now, I also wanted to bring this to your attention. We are Wednesday, depending on where you are in the world, perhaps we are Thursday, but since 2025, Wednesday has proven to be the best day for Bitcoin, and Thursday has proven to be the worst day for Bitcoin. So if this trend continues, it would simply mean that Bitcoin might actually start reversing this Thursday. But I have to remind you, it's very, very important to be patient with Bitcoin because it doesn't just give us these sharp moves. Most of the time, we're consolidating within a range before making our next big move. And if you've been following the channel, to repeat myself, I am still leaning bearish. I do think that Bitcoin will be breaking below $60,000 this year. So if we take a look at the previous range, which is where I originally shorted Bitcoin, you'll notice here that Bitcoin actually chopped around for approximately 62 days until we started having that massive move to the downside. This time around, Bitcoin has effectively only chopped around for 43 days. And so what this means is there can be some continued chopping for Bitcoin before we make our next big move. Now, as you know, I like to cover both sides of the market. So what would be the bullish case scenario for Bitcoin? That would be actually getting daily candle closes above the tariff capitulation lows. If we start to get daily candle closes above this level, then that would suggest that Bitcoin is ready to go as high as potentially this bull market support band. That being said, I still firmly believe that we would get rejected and ultimately move lower because this is a bear market year and we have literally only dropped around 50% from the high to the low. Traditionally, we drop over 75%. So, in the event that we do get a more significant move to the upside, I would simply be looking to add to my existing short all the way up here. Although right now, my base case is not that we get an aggressive move to the upside. So let's see how the price action develops. Ultimately, I will continue to trade the market that is right in front of me. But from a swing trading perspective, I still think that Bitcoin heads lower as we continue to build this liquidity to the downside. A lot of longs, everyone's watching this trend line, and it was a very, very similar situation to what occurred right around here, building out that trend line, a lot of liquidity below the trend line, and then ultimately a move to the downside. And before we cover what's been going on with the war, you can see that the stock market had another red day, essentially just chopping around at this range low. This is going to be a pretty difficult support level to breach. So I would be expecting the stock market to actually continue to chop around here before we get likely a resolution to the downside. Next thing I wanted to cover quickly here is the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. On the 7-day time frame, there is now officially more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market. Something for you to consider. Now, let's get into the war details and we'll be wrapping up this video. So the US has actually developed a 15-point plan to end the Iran war and claims that supposedly Iran has agreed to many of the key points. The details include many of the same demands the US made during the last round of nuclear talks in Geneva. Then we also had the fact that Iran supposedly agreed on giving up their stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Now, I'm not so sure if that's true. The document calls for zero uranium enrichment in Iran. And then we had the Israeli Prime Minister concerned that Trump might strike a deal that falls well short of Israel's objectives. Then, on the other side, Iran came out and said that this peace plan proposal was actually excessive. Iran also said that it will not allow President Trump to dictate the timing of the end of the war. Not the best thing you want to hear. And then also, they came out and set 5 conditions to end the war. Immediate end to attacks and assassinations on Iran, establishment of concrete guarantees against future U.S. attacks, clear determination and guaranteed payment for war damages, international recognition of Iran's authority over the Strait of Hormuz, which is definitely something that Trump will not want, an end to the war across all fronts, including for all Iranian proxies in the region. We now await a new response from the US. And in the meantime, Iran supposedly told Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey that US military movements have increased their suspicion that Trump's proposal for peace talks is not actually true. It's just a distraction. Trump's decision to deploy major troop reinforcements is suspicious to Iran. Several fighter jets and thousands of troops are set to arrive in the Middle East in the coming days. And we also have the fact that officials say that another 2 to 3 weeks of war is planned, even if talks take place. Now, that last point is quite important because we did have Iran coming out and saying that there are technically no talks with the US. So what on earth is going on? And as if the war escalations weren't enough, well, we have the fact that unemployment rate in the US is surging at a very, very alarming rate. The average duration of unemployment in the US jumped over 2 weeks in February to 25.7 weeks, a 4-year high. Unemployment duration has risen 6.3 weeks since October of 2023, the fastest pace since 2020 to 2021, and this is well above the 2018 to 2019 pre-pandemic levels. And at the same time, the median duration of unemployment is also up. Both metrics are trending consistently higher, a pattern previously seen at the onset of past recessions. And next week, we will be getting the JOLTS job opening data on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that because I will be covering it on the channel. Legends, I am not in the business of calling recessions, but you can usually see that late in the business cycle, oil is the one asset to spike. Now, we've been seeing oil gradually increasing, and I just don't think that overall this is a good environment for risk assets like Bitcoin. So even if on the lower time frames Bitcoin does get a significant move to the upside, I still firmly believe that it will resort lower. We are continuing to build out liquidity, and this has been my thesis for quite some time. Let's see how the price action develops. To address a comment that I saw in my previous video, what happens if Bitcoin doesn't tap into the low and this is the bear market bottom? Well, good thing I still have spot exposure to Bitcoin. I never fully get out of the market, and I do still have a pretty significant Bitcoin spot bag, having accumulated in the previous bear market sub $30,000. That's how you want to play the market. Even though I think we could go lower, I am not a fortune teller, and I will be the first to tell you that I have gotten things wrong in the past before. But I am still a profitable trader. It simply doesn't matter. Sometimes I lose, sometimes I win, but my wins greatly exceed my losses. So let's see how the price action develops. At this point in time, we are just chopping right below the value area high. If we can reclaim this level on the lower time frames, there is a case to be made that we can even target the tariff capitulation lows. However, I'm still favoring a move to the downside. And that sums up today's quick video. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.